I'm Casey.
And I'm Tyler.
And I'm Eric.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast.
Podcast. What is happening, everybody?
What is?
This is The Element Podcast, brought to you by First Light Gear. And guess what? It's actually time to wear First Light Gear. We are hunting right now for antelope. And I will say that the trace is everything they say it is. It is pretty good for some hot weather. Now, it's got its drawbacks just like everything else. Spotting and stalking, crawling around on the ground, hurts your knees. But we'll get into all that stuff here in a little bit. Right now, we're antelope hunting. And it's a lot of fun. Right now, actually, we're not antelope hunting. We're podcasting. We were having a discussion before this about like how much we should let the audience in on the behind the scenes. Well, I'm going to let y'all in on the fact that when we podcast, we don't just talk. We actually have a slight plan. At least to the effect of we set up some GoPros and some podcast equipment. Beyond
wherever
that,
we are.
there really isn't that much of a plan. We don't orchestrate our conversations too often much. Maybe we should more.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can go to our story at some point and see this in the next few days. I'm going to show what the room looks like.
Yeah, so we were commenting before, or when we showed up, how Airbnbs have, I think the word would be ambiguous. It's ambiguous decor. So it appeals to everyone, but it doesn't really speak to anyone.
Universal. It's universally liked decor.
Yeah.
Or
So
accepted.
a clock with Roman numerals is not very offensive to most people, right?
Oh, you would be surprised.
Somebody will find
bet somebody could be offended.
Greg says he's been to this picture back here on Lake Tahoe, which I would have guessed that was like, I don't know where, by the color of the water.
Yeah, it looks like Caribbean with mountains.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking like Mykonos or something.
Whose? Yours?
Yeah. Or Mykonos or however they say it. I don't know. But anyways, there's some things that don't work in this facility, which is kind of funny, like the living room light. And sometimes the air conditioner. But it's nice either way. Yeah, we're staying at an Airbnb out here antelope hunting in New Mexico, and it's going okay, I think. We're about halfway through a trip, kind of taking a break, letting the animals rest, and letting us rest. I slept to a really nice about 5:58 this morning, which is about an hour and a half more than I usually do on this trip. That's one of the weird things that we've encountered throughout our hunting lives, it seems, as we start kind of traveling. You know, we're from Texas. And in Texas, you have an October 1 opener most of the time. No, it's whatever the early October opener is. So, like this year, I think it's September 29 or something like that.
Sometime it'll be in September, but most of the time they try to do first couple of days of October.
Yeah. But it's later in the year to where like you don't have to get up super early or stay up super late. And, you know, a lot of times when you're hunting close to home, you are close to home and you don't have to like go home and make food and do all this stuff. And it just works out better. Whereas when you travel early in the season, this is the earliest I've ever hunted anything outside of pigs at home. We're getting up super early and staying up really late because that's how much daylight there is. And thankfully with antelope, there's like this certain level of things just happen a little earlier in the day. Whereas like deer hunting, like especially early season, you're waiting until for the last few minutes of daylight because they don't move. But antelope are moving all day. So like yesterday, for instance, we kind of wrapped it up like, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes before dark just because that's how it went. And if you didn't have an antelope to set up on at that point in time, it was no big deal. But I guess all that to say, the rest is well appreciated from today because this is tiring. I'm not going to say it's a grind because it's whatever. But you can get pretty tired doing this because also, unlike early season whitetail, there's like no nap time. There's no time of the day where we're like, oh, this is a great time to chill. In fact, how many times have you stalked stuff while we were sitting there eating lunch?
I mean, more than I wanted to, for sure. You know, I was trying to make the right moves for sure.
Show the audience that knee.
Oh, they can't see it, man.
Which one is it?
It's too low. It's that left one.
Your left knee?
Yeah. I stalked. I did a lot of crawling on this trip, but the first day I was crawling I guess it's the first day. Maybe it was the second day. I was crawling after this group, and I didn't really want to, but I was forced into it. And I have something tore when we did the Gila trip together several years ago, and it's been okay since then. But all that crawling, for whatever reason, I think it just tore up some cartilage in my knee because it pops all the time now, and it's real swollen and just sensitive. But yeah, it's been long days. The antelope are really diurnal, which means that they pretty much don't move at night and don't do a whole lot, it seems like.
I'm interested in that. I would like to get a thermal out and just check that.
I guarantee you they're just standing there. They just eat, and then they'll sit back down.
Well, I believe it, but at the same time, Greg and I have been over hunting a spot for like 3 mornings straight.
Over hunting.
And I think we could have went and killed something there this morning. But when you say spot out here, first of all, we're talking about like 2,000 acres. That's like a spot, you know. Like it's a big area, and so like it's not like you're hunting like one little drainage that the deer move through. You know, it's antelope. They just go anywhere they want to, which makes it way hard. But
and they do it quickly.
we've been over there and watched the same buck do the same thing 2 mornings in a row, and bucks do the same thing. So it's like, how are they getting back except that they have to move at night, or maybe they're doing a big circle. Like, they might not be linear. Mm-hmm. You know, they might be doing big circles or something.
Yeah, I think they are, for
sure.
But
because I don't understand how we only see them move one direction, but if they don't move at night, how are they getting back to that other place?
The way that I've seen it is they just end up close. They end up, it may be a loop deal, but they ended up close to where they do their thing the next morning usually. Mm-hmm. I should have killed yesterday morning on a group that the night before I had a buck at 59, and I could not. I won't even tell the story because there's a bunch of stories if I was to start telling these. But like, essentially, didn't even draw at 59, and they moved off and hung out for a long time before dark. Before they kind of moseyed off and kind of it was getting real dark. So at the end of the night, they were in that area. So the next morning, I basically caught them coming back the other direction that next morning, and I actually had a shot yesterday morning at I guessed at 55. I had ranged. These 3 bucks came through this little draw really quick. They were feeding for forever at 90 yards, and then all of a sudden they go through this little depression and come back up the other side quick. And by the time I could range them around this little tree, they were at I ranged one at 55, which was the closest one, and he was broadside. I draw back finally, and he like looks over at me, but almost didn't even quit walking, and then starts up again going. And so I didn't get a shot on him. Well, he gets like over this little hill in the grass and stuff, and then the other one is probably 60, you know. But at the time, I'm still thinking 55, shoot low. So I used my 50-yard pin, which I had. It was my middle pin in this situation. I put it low, I shoot, and I was shocked it didn't hit. But the only thing I can think is it went low because I was shooting maybe 60 with a 50-yard pin, shooting it low. But the reason I'm shooting low is because of what?
So let's get into this a little bit. It's one of the things that I have a couple notes in my head, but I forget them when we start talking. But one of the things I want us to discuss is how much different archery antelope is than any other archery stuff we do. It is y'all are what we call in our little group a captive audience. If you're listening to the Element Podcast, there's a good chance you know who we are. If it's your first time listening, we do things pretty candid around here. We let y'all know really what's going on. All that to say, there's a lot of shooting and missing when it comes to antelope for a lot of reasons. You absolutely cannot be a 20 and in type guy and hunt antelope with a bow. It will never happen. Maybe if you set up on water, but I still don't think. I mean, Eric, you have a buddy that was set up on water and still made a far shot last year.
It was like 80 yards from a blind, and that's what he had to do because he was failing getting close. So he sat in a blind and still was 80 yards.
Yeah, and honestly, that's not a bad setup if you've practiced at it because a calm animal is pretty nice to shoot at. When you're spotting and stalking antelope, you I mean, I'm going to say it differently. I have not got to shoot at a calm one yet. I've got to shoot at some that were, well, I can say calm, that not at rest. Mm-hmm. I've not got to shoot at an antelope that didn't know I was there. Mm-hmm. And antelope that know you were there, it's a bad deal, And mm-hmm. so Tyler is referring to aiming low because I shot an antelope yesterday morning, I believe, maybe 2 mornings ago. I don't really remember. It all runs together. Because they all look like the same animal. People be talking about scoring antelope. They're the same. Every single one of them's a clone, okay?
Well, when 10 inches difference is like...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess... it's like 15 inches is the difference in Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett.
What is it, 69 for Pope and Young?
I think it's
67, I thought.
And I think Pope and Young's 62 and Boone is 78, maybe?
It was 81. 81
I thought it was
gets you
67.
I'll fact check it. There's no reason to not fact check
that, Jamie. Thank you, sir. I guess what you're getting at is like the difference in whitetail Pope and Young and Boone is like 60 or what is it? 50
45 inches.
125,
45 inches.
170. Yeah. So a lot. Whereas these things, it's not much. So they're just hard to score on the hoof, and they just look like the same thing. There's little ones and then there's big ones. Mm-hmm. But I think I was trying to say that I was stalking one the other morning and had a shot at 73 that I felt absolutely money on. He got up on his own accord. I drew my bow as he was getting up, so he saw me on my knees, and I took my time, leveled my bubble. Everything was primo. And I released my shot, and the animal ducked at least 12 inches, maybe more, and I shaved hair off of the nape of this buck. The footage is awesome of that, and that's when we saw that these things are some string jumping fools. And I think, too, at distance like that, with animals that have such good eyesight, they're seeing your bow go off, and they're hearing the arrow whenever it's within 20 yards of them. So all of that makes them they're really twitchy, right? They have good reaction times. I think, Tyler, you were on a group a couple nights ago, and then one of them just twitched out for no reason and ran off, right? Like it was like the big one, and they were just getting weird.
They're so weird, man.
Yeah. So you have to aim very low on these animals. But the problem when you start aiming low is that all of a sudden you'll have one that might not react the same way. And like the one that you just talked about shooting and missing, he ducked a little bit, it looked like, but it wasn't like an astounding amount, So if you're aiming low, like he's going to come out of his skin and he just kind of flinches a little bit, then that's a miss, So what'd you find out about the inches?
Pope is 67 and Boone and Crockett is 82.
So, and there's like 81 gets you in the book for a year, and then they
80.
take your 80 does?
Yeah.
It's weird.
I don't know
I'm for sure if I shoot an 80 incher, I'm calling a booner, and we're done.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I feel like that it's kind of like with the Share Lunker program where they're like all of a sudden they're giving awards for seven pounders or whatever. It's like, can we not just, do we have to give a ribbon to everybody?
I think the reason that they're doing it on the antelope is that the book gets full. So they started taking some out because because they were getting too many of that number or something.
They can't just print an extra page, or
you can ask them. So all that to say, they all look a lot alike. I have a particular arrow set up on my bow that I like. I have 2 bows. I have a light arrow bow and a heavy arrow bow, and I cannot shoot my light arrow bow as good as I can at my heavy arrow bow. So I brought it. I'm shooting 535 grains out of a fast bow. I don't remember what it's flying, but it's like 262 or something like that, I think.
That's pretty light, right?
262 is the weight on your broadhead. And it's a single bevel, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Just making sure you get a pass through on this pronghorn.
So, and you are shooting a little bit different setup.
Yeah, I'm shooting 430 is what I'm shooting with 100 grain tip.
It hasn't produced differently for us yet. However, I will say that I wish, I don't know, I shoot this bow better. I hit better at distance with this bow. But accurate ranges make so much of a difference on these animals. like I figured out the other day, at 50 yards, it's 3 inches either direction. So if you're at 51, you're shooting 3 inches low. If he's at 49, you're shooting 3 inches high. And these things move around a bunch. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get a precise range. And at those longer distances, the range makes more of a difference even when you stretch it out there. So at 73, I don't know what it is, but it could be 4 or 5 inches per yard. So I'm really, dare I say, regretting not bringing my lighter arrow set up. And I wasn't shooting it unethically. I still was at 50 yards holding it fairly tight, like pie plate size, which isn't great, but it would kill an antelope. And I think that I might be more lethal. I might have a dead one on the ground at this point in time.
You know what I like about these animals is the colors. I told Tyler the other day that white spot on their belly is like a good, keep your pin in that area.
They're good-looking critters.
Yeah,
they are, dude. They got so many throat patches, man. The Element crew, I don't even know how we figure out how to aim.
Hunter Dickens couldn't handle it.
Don't be talking. Don't be talking. There's a infamous Illinois buck truck episode that everybody loves to rage you about.
Yeah, well, one and done on that, I think, hopefully.
Hey, let's do it. One and done. Let's do it that way, man.
Listen.
I like it.
If I can shoot an antelope accidentally in the throat and kill him right now, I would do it.
You got a laughing Greg back there, too.
I want one of them to go down bad.
Me
and
too.
I think we're going to have some success. We've put together some thoughts. It took us a while to learn this. We got a buddy out here who's kind of been helping us out with this stuff. He's hunted this place quite a bit. And he's got some thoughts about things, but he's never bow hunted them. And so I think that's just a little bit different between the rifle hunt and the bow hunt. In fact, if you want a fun hunt, go rifle hunt antelope, because you will kill one without a doubt.
Dang, dude.
As long as your property has them on it.
What if you're a crossbow hunter but you're using a rifle? You still going to kill?
Yeah, probably. If you shoot a crossbow, you know how to shoot a rifle. They're about the same thing.
I don't know, man. I feel like crossbow and a rifle hunter might be a different person.
Oh, it might be. You mean more like in persona?
No, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Maybe in experience level and abilities.
So do you think that a crossbow hunter has more experience or less experience hunting?
There's no generalities here. It's just that it could be.
Oh. I like where this is going. It could be is a great place to be, right? Go rifle hunt antelope if you want to have some fun. If you want to really work on your spot and stalk skills, go antelope hunting with a bow, because you get a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. We talking about practice right here.
Talking about practice.
Yeah. So, Tyler, what has changed from what you thought was the tactic to what is the tactic? All right, now midway through the hunt.
I don't know. I think when I first started, before we ever hunted or whatever, I'd say I didn't really think there was a tactic.
You just thought you'd just try to get in their way?
Just thought, I just had an open mind. I just think, there wasn't anything about it that I was like, this is what is going to be the thing. I've never done this before, so I don't typically make I don't try to make something work that's not going to work usually. So I don't start a hunt in any situation that I'm not somewhat privy to, that I'm just going to be like, oh, that's the way you do this, because I want to be adaptable and be able to kill them by the end of the trip. So I would say there's not really been a change, but I think that probably the spot and stalk stuff is going to be the hardest way to do it. And I think that it is almost impossible if you don't have either cover, like a lot of cover for this country at least, because it's just wild how little cover there is. And then I think that probably sitting maybe water or some of the areas we might have been seeing them kind of pattern, at least as goats, not necessarily individually, would be probably a top way to do it, but also a much more boring / sunburny type of expedition. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's hard for me because I would love to just stalk them and make it happen, but I think that, especially my knee, that I might end up sitting some stuff the next few days.
I thought when I came into this, I thought that it was going to be
the decoy thing. I didn't mention either. That sits right in the middle between those two, I think, as far as like the most effective way to kill an antelope. Probably.
I thought the decoy was going to work better than it does. Mm. It's just a very particular situation that it works well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we'll go into like,
but we're not hunting the rut. So
yeah, but they're doing kind of some ruddy type things, and I don't know. They might do it because I've hunted one other type of antelope, and that's nilgai, and I think they kind of are always working out the pecking order too. So I don't know if that's how these guys are or not, but because they're always going to be encountering each other, and they're always going to be like in the mix. Whereas whitetail, if they want to go live alone, they can, or if they want to live in a bachelor group, they can. But like, there's always does and bucks, and they're all just all together all the time. Mm. So I haven't lived around them, so it'd be interesting to know what they're doing in March, kind of to just kind of maybe let you know if things amp up or down. But I thought that this was going to be I thought there'd be a little more herbaceous cover. I'll say it that way. I thought there'd be a little bit more trees, not trees, but like bushes and cactus to work in and out of. Mm-hmm. And really, you have terrain, and you've got just a tiny bit of that kind of cover. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. There's a decent amount of tall grass, but when I say tall, it's like knee high. Mm-hmm. You're doing good if you found some knee high grass.
You're pretty much. You can't even hands and knees crawl unless you have elevation with that. Mm-hmm. Pretty much. My most successful spot and stalks, I think to add to that, I thought that I was going to be able to make moves on antelope that were on their feet, and that is absolutely not something that you can do outside of the decoy thing that we are going to talk about in a second. If you're trying to just sneak up on one, he has to be bedded. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know there's always going to be some things outside of that, and that's fine. But like in my experience, I can get within range if they're bedded, and if they're not bedded, no chance. They're gonna see you. They are going to see you. They're so good at it, and so dude, it blows my mind a little bit. You hear about it, and I feel like there's a lot of these cliches that exist, especially in hunting, and people love to talk about them. You know, what was I was thinking about one the other day? What was it? I was thinking about this because we came across a prairie rattler the other day. And people like to talk about that snakes are getting less and less rattly, and that they're most of them don't even rattle. You hear like that. I feel like that's just like a wives' tale a little bit. You know what I mean? So there's things like that exist, and pronghorn seeing you is one of those things that I thought was a wives' tale kind of thing, but it's legit.
A mile away.
It's wild.
If your head comes over the ridge, a mile away.
How do they see it?
And it's not like they spook, but they see you, and you're toast.
If your nose comes above the horizon, you're seen.
You're seen.
It's wild.
It is insane. And what's interesting about pronghorn is earlier we talked about how they go wherever a pronghorn wants to, because they can go under fences and they can climb hills. There's hardly any funneling except for like. They will kind of feed lazily. So they will go through saddles and stuff. Yeah. But, like, if you spook one, he just runs a straight line, whatever that
where
is.
He wants to go.
Where he wants to go.
And that's the thing. Like, I think one thing that we've tried to do, at least in the past, I don't know if we've done it successfully, but you get close, is like if somebody's stalking, then you could set another bow hunter in whitetail woods. You could set another bow hunter in the draw. And he's probably going to go down in there if it's away from the other hunter that's stalking him, right? With pronghorn, it is like literally they might go there. They're going to go to high ground a lot, which deer almost never, will do unless they're going over into the next draw, And so it's like that's the part that's like you can't even bump them to each other. I don't even, there's no.
And here's the other weird thing about him. Since a pronghorn knows it can go wherever he wants to and find whatever resources he needs to, there's like a whitetail, for instance, like say a doe who's coming in to feed and catches you at 80 yards away. She does the head bob thing and weighs out her risk versus reward to go eat that corn. A pronghorn is coming your way. They see you from 700 yards off, but barely, and you just get still. They're just like, there's nothing motivating me to go there. Mm-hmm. I can just go this way.
Yeah.
So there's no.
They stand there for 35 minutes and look at you, and then they walk the other way.
They have to be completely oblivious to your existence.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, Greg and I, there's like this opportunity for some. I'm not going to call it road hunting because that would be bad, but like
2-track.
It's a road on the property, right? But you can like get on one real close to a road because they don't care about a road.
Mm-hmm.
But we drove up this road knowing that there was a group of antelope right on the other side of the hill. So we get out of the truck, sneak up, and I'm peeking through the grass. I'm kind of trying to find where they're at. And I like see them through the grass, and they're like 70, and there's a doe looking at me. And I'm like, crap. And you know what they did? She didn't know what it was. I got down right away, but they just turned 180 degrees and fed the other direction.
Yeah, that's what they do, man. Yeah. Now, we've got two things I want to visit here. This is a short podcast because with time crunch here, but one thing is the decoy thing we talked about real quick, and then I want to get like Eric's perspective on the camera and what that's like trying to film stuff.
Let's do the camera stuff because I want to do that and then pivot into how we're going to have success.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us about filming these things because honestly, let me start to give you something a little bit narrower than that. That way you're not like, which not saying you don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just trying to help you. I guess what I'm saying.
Guide me.
Gaio.
As
he doesn't know what we're talking about, by the way, because he doesn't know what the word antelope is. Oh. He calls it something different.
Antelopes.
Yeah.
Antelopes, yeah. That's funny. So you've watched a lot of these stalks and a lot of the hunts through the camera lens. From your perspective, what's the thing that we should keep doing?
Well, that very first day, me, you, and Greg went on a stalk. You remember the $3?
Let me think.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
$3?
They were bedded. Me, you, Greg, and Jared went down.
Oh, yeah.
When they,
I can't remember.
Was that the 2020 season?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. That's
so we got a new lens, by the way. So we're playing, with this long lens off in the distance behind the hunter, and it's making for some cool footage this trip. And right after that, I kind of noticed, and when I give air quote suggestions, a lot of the time it's more asking you guys like, is this a good idea? Yeah. Because I'm so new, but. After that, I realized, those bucks came up to us and they saw just 4, high heads just sitting up there.
Dude, for real. Indian style. You know, like we were
just
not
out in the
hiding.
open.
Yes.
Yeah. And, but
why
Jared,
did they do that? Do you remember?
Because y'all were wearing Richardson 112s.
I don't remember.
Tyler and Michael were on the hill watching us, and there was a coyote.
Yeah.
And coyotes have caused me trouble in the past 12 months.
Coyote del Cielo.
On this trip, there's a few times the coyotes and other stuff, and deer too, have caused issues with antelope. But go ahead, sorry.
They come up though, and they immediately spot us. But Jared, he lifts up the decoy, and so we have a decoy up, and then also this new lens we have, it's white, and they locked onto that for a second, but then when Jared put his decoy up, they locked onto that and just ignored me, you, and Greg. And they just kept walking closer to us three a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that was just something I was like, man, that is weird. And they just slowly walked towards us while just staring at that decoy.
Gosh, I was freaking out because I was like, oh, it's actually happening on the first day. And I was ranging. And it was changing so much. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this work.
Dude, this is so hard.
It is, man.
And it's sick footage. This new lens is going to be awesome for the channel. But after that hunt, I asked you guys, not suggested, but I asked you and Greg, man, is it a thing? because the idea was I was going to be behind you guys a little bit, filming over your shoulder, getting the the antelopes in frame. But I kind of asked you, I was like, man, would it be better if I was like 100 yards off with the decoy? Because when they lock on, they're going to walk a little bit closer. And I kind of asked you, and then you guys, I think, kind of figured that out. Yeah,
it takes some trial and error, I think, on there for sure. But that was a great intuitive thing to think about, man.
And then something I've noticed just watching from a distance is like they are very confident in their speed. Like it's almost like they know they're one of the fastest animals on the planet.
You ever seen Cheetah? What's his name?
Yeah, little. What's his name?
Played for the Chiefs and the Dolphins.
Dude, I can't think of nothing.
You ever see how he walks around? I mean, he's just kind of bouncy, you know. Like he just knows that there ain't nobody as bad as him.
And I feel like that's just why they stand there. Is because
what are you going to do?
Yeah, walk towards me.
Get within 50 yards. I'm out here.
We were driving by some bucks last night, and they just kept running by our truck. And I think that's why they were we can outrun this thing. And then they started to realize we can't outrun this thing. What's going on? And they were just kind of confused.
And then they're like, let me get a little faster.
Yeah.
And then maybe I can.
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. But, I mean, they're quick, and they know it, and it's tough.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of filming this stuff?
You mean from a distance or?
Yeah, just antelope hunting. Like from a production standpoint, what's the cool part?
Man, I don't know. Just the whole thing. Just their colors, how fast they are. Right now, I'm just having a blast using that long lens because it's a new lens for us. It's real sharp, and
I like because we've been, of course, looking at footage because none of us have hunted these things, so we're kind of like what we're doing right now because of that. And it's neat with that lens. We have so much country that you can see.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of bokehs and so and if you don't know what that is, which I hardly do, but pretty much like you have stuff behind the animal that is blurry and the stuff in front that's blurry and the animal's in focus, and it just makes for some really pretty footage. Whereas like when you hunt in East Texas, there's like a focal length of 18 yards to 20 yards, and then everything behind it is just trees and everything in front of it is just brush, right?
Yeah.
So like it's just a lot more perspective out here. You got a huge mountain in the background. By the way, the atmosphere is super clear. There's no smoke or anything, so and no humidity, right? So like you're looking at a mountain that's 5 miles, 7, 8 miles away, and like it looks like you're looking at it through a sharp lens. You know, like there's no haze or anything, so it just makes for some pretty stuff.
So with the decoying thing that we did, first and foremost there, that kind of gave us some ideas. We kind of got away from that a little bit. We spot and stalked for a while, and failed miserably at a lot of that. And then we ended up yesterday, I think it was, KC, well, you and I started talking about, you called me and you're like, hey, I've got an idea. And somehow the same day in the same morning, we both figured out this. We were like, hey, what happened in that first setup is very much like, what we should probably be doing. You and Greg did something a little bit different than we did. And actually, when you called me, so that morning, Eric was, we had left him up on the hill because he had the long lens. Michael and I go through this bottom to go after this pronghorn. We jump one that none of us had a clue was there. And when he takes off running, we got on our bellies and laid flat where he couldn't see us. And he did like a 90-degree half circle and then literally came to 60 yards. Like came to it because he couldn't find us anymore, right? So the same concept worked for you, and then we had another thing go on right after I talked to you.
So I called you because I was like, we just figured something out. And you're like, yeah, I already knew that. I was like, but we were stalking a bedded buck, and I got to like 100 from him at a yucca, and he like caught the top of my head or smelled me maybe because the wind. These things, this is something we probably should talk about, but like they can smell, but it's nowhere near like a whitetail. So I think that it's almost like they don't spook from smell. It just intrigues the curiosity. But if they're already a little spooked and then they smell you, they're gone. So scent is just not as big a concern, but it is a thing to think about. Like you don't want to just try to stalk one with the wind blowing right at him, right? It's probably a bad idea. All that to say, the wind kind of swirled a little bit. I think he smelled me. He looked over, for no reason, right? And kind of saw the top of my head, and I got down real low. And then Greg gets out a paper towel because we'd already kind of been messing with this a little bit. Paper towels are great because you can crumple them and put them in your pocket, right? But he gets out this paper towel and holds it up and starts waving it. And sure enough, the antelope marches at me and gets like, I don't know, 12 yards. And I'm freaking out because in that moment, you can't do anything with your bow, right? So he finally sees me, spooks out to 35. I try to get drawn at that, and it doesn't. But if I was able to draw while he was running off, he stopped at 35, and I would have got a shot. I would have smoked him. Would have been dead. Maybe, actually. My pin was set to 40, so I would have had to do some quick math on there.
Low.
Yeah, way low.
Let me ask you this. If you had a Randy Johnson arm, could you have speared him? We were talking about, has anyone ever speared a pronghorn?
No.
I don't even know if it's legal.
Dude.
I the thoughts about how to kill them in potentially illegal ways. I just don't know if they're legal. But
we made a point this morning I thought was pretty interesting. The buffalo was like the animal, like symbolic of the prairie, right? And they were extirpated by people. People smoked them. They couldn't handle it. Well, antelope were there too, and antelope are doing fine right now. So, like, there's something about them that make them quite a bit harder to hunt the buffalo.
By the way, I wasn't saying I want to do something illegal. I was just saying I hadn't looked up the rule book yet on this stuff, you know. So these are in future years.
Don't know that you can decoy antelope in this state. I'm just assuming you can. So we might have to check on that later.
So the locals are telling us we can. So that's
right.
No, but after that happened for y'all, I talked to you on the phone, and we literally had just parked the trucks on an antelope that it was by himself, and we saw over the hill. So we parked trucks. We go try to get after him. We had Jared, who you mentioned earlier, or maybe you did, with us, and he was going to hold a big old, like, full-size two-dimensional decoy, right? So I get him like maybe 75, 80 yards from me. Eric's behind him with the long lens, and then Michael and I are obviously in front and kind of off to the side. Dude, he holds that decoy up. This buck comes marching right at us, dude. I was like, there ain't no way this is going to happen, right? And, dude, he came. Our wind is blowing right at him, and he walked for 200 yards through our wind and blowing and stuff the whole time and kept coming. It was wild, dude. And so he ended up at like 60. I couldn't see him over the right. The thing is, you can't just full body walk over a hill, so you always have like a little rise, you know. And so he came on the downhill side of it, and all I could see was his antlers. Didn't get a shot. But, you know, it gave us some confidence. So I think going forward, we're going to employ those techniques a little bit.
How are you killing one? Give me your just boom. This is how I'm doing it.
I'd like to say set up somewhere, which I probably will do a little bit of. But I think that either where I missed yesterday at 55 or 60 or whatever it was, or with that decoy situation in a very particular setup.
You don't think you're going to kill over water?
I don't think I will. I don't think they're very predictable in that.
I think I might.
Let's go.
I think I might kill one over water. It's either going to be over water or it's going to be
underwater.
I kind of want to be under some water.
I guarantee you.
It's kind of hot. There's like this pattern. Like antelope, it seems as if you can't pattern individuals, but you can predict herd-style movements. And they tend to want to go up over this like cap rock, kind of rim rock type stuff and be on top at night. So I think that's the other way I'm going to kill one, or I think you can only kill one. But like those options, that's going to be the other method. Is going to be sitting on the edge up there, not getting seen. That's the hard part in that. Like they see you up there, but just being in one of those places where they're going to go up and shoot them. So Eric, how are we going to kill one?
Hopefully like that.
Okay.
I'm ready to eat some antelope.
Me
too, dude. That's going to be cool.
What'd you say?
Antelope, sorry.
Okay. I was confused on what you were talking about there.
I think I've had a hard time not calling them deer. Like,
me too.
It's like, it's real weird.
Man, look at them deer.
I know. It's strange. But bucks and does, you know, I think that's just how what the thing is.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, that's antelope hunting. Hopefully next week we'll have some more success to talk about. We can break down like the thing to do, so that if you feel like you want to go antelope hunting and sweat your tail off and just burn your knees off on the ground,
you can learn from us.
That's right.
Yeah. You know, one more thing to plug right at the end here is this year, again, you're going to hear us here in a few weeks probably on the Wired to Hunt platform. We're going to be on Mark's what do you do kind of thing, what would you do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then also the Rut Fresh podcast will be over on his channel as well. So make sure you're subscribed to Wired to Hunt. If you're not subscribed here at The Element, do that as well, please. Whether you're watching on YouTube or you are subscribing on the podcast, any podcast platform, just make sure you're following along to get those up-to-date rut reports as they come out, which it's really just deer reports, It's deer movement reports. So anyway, do that. Remember, this is your element.
Live in it.